This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is
the JBU.Show featuring Austin
from the Miller Talk Podcast.
Allen,
The American Sincerist.
and now your host,
Cam Allen.
You know, before I started scheduling the show, we never, ever had a problem going on. And then as soon as I start scheduling the show, I swear to God, it's every single night. Something is wrong. Tried to go on 30 minutes ago, but all the frames kept dropping, couldn't figure out why. Few questions with Grok later, we got it sorted out. We're back on. How's it going, everybody? My name is Chris. This is the JBU.Show, and as we all know, we are now in the middle of a conflict with Iran. So, of course, that is going to be the main topic for this evening. And, of course, I've chosen a provocative headline, but I kind of mean it. We'll get into that, of course. There's a few other stories we got tonight, but there's no way around it. Iran's the big focus. We're going to talk about that, what it means going forward, and kind of where everybody's at on this, because it's all over the map, and in a kind of weird way. A lot of people agreeing that you wouldn't normally see agreeing. A lot of people disagreeing that you wouldn't normally see disagreeing. So I guess we'll just take it one step at a time and go from there. Start off tonight, as usual, with our first video.
Arthur, get out of the tank.
You're not my dad.
Get out of the fucking tank. I am your dad.
You're not my dad.
I am your dad. Get out of the fucking
I'm in a tank and you're not.
I will call
I'm literally in
Get out of the fucking tank.
I'm literally in the tank. You're
Get
not.
out of the
You're not my dad.
Literally get out of the tank.
Look, tell Major Militant. I don't give a fuck.
Get out of the fucking tank.
No.
Okay.
That is actual footage
Arthur, get
of
out of
Trump
the
in
tank.
Congress
You're not my dad.
right now.
Get out of the fucking tank.
Actual footage. Anyway, so it started off late last night. I got the notification on my phone, late last night being, Friday night. I got the notification on my phone that we started bombing Iran. Kind of seen this coming. We've been surrounding the country for the last, 3 months, or however long. I didn't realize it would take so long to get the aircraft carriers in place. It was my impression that they've gone back and forth there many times. But apparently it does. Regardless, it was inevitable, I think, that we established that many assets and then decided to attack. Now, I'll say up front, I am definitely not in favor of a prolonged conflict or a forever war or anything along those lines. Generally speaking, I wouldn't be in favor with a war with Iran, period. And I wouldn't say I'm in favor of it. I also would definitely say that any president prior to now, I would have been flat out opposed. I'm willing to give Trump the leeway on this. And I'm willing to give Trump the leeway on this because as far as foreign affairs are concerned, he hasn't bullshitted us being the American people, once yet. Not that I can tell. Now, I know a lot of people are up in arms that, Trump's doing Israel's bidding. Maybe that's true. We'll go through it. But, I mean, look, I've been straightforward about it the whole time. You want somebody that's just going to say Israel's behind everything and they're responsible for every evil in the world. I'm not your guy. Logic can't bring me there. It is a relatively small country. It has a relatively small GDP, even per capita. It's about the same as the average European nation, which is not much, especially not in comparison to the United States. And if they supposedly control all the world banks and everything else, why are they so poor? I believe that Israel does a lot of meddling in the world. Mossad, via Mossad and their intelligence agencies, just like we do. I believe that we do a lot of things for them and they do some things for us. I believe that previous administrations have done far too much for Israel. I do not believe in putting Israel's interest before America's at all. Not even a little bit. That does not mean, though, that we can never have interests that are aligned. We've been wanting to get out of the Middle East for a long time. And I understand why a lot of people see this as us getting back into the Middle East. I get that. But I think that's a very short-sighted and narrow-minded take on what's happening right now. Now, if in 6 months from now we got boots on the ground, then, you can tell me I'm wrong. But when we struck their nuclear facility 6 months ago, Trump said, one strike, we're going to take out their capability, and that's it. And that's what happened. One strike, we took out their capability, and that was it. When it came to Venezuela, we're going to get Maduro. That's it. One strike, we got Maduro. That was it. I don't see any reason not to take him at his word on this. At least so far. You're never going to catch me in a situation where I'm defending Trump for the sake of defending Trump. I will criticize Trump just like anybody else. I do it all the time. But on foreign affairs especially, he's been very clear about how he feels about Iran, how he feels about how we should deal with Iran, and just generally speaking, on dealing with foreign affairs. Now, he backed himself into a corner a little bit by drawing a red line that Iran did ultimately cross, and that's another reason why this strike was sort of inevitable. We can debate the merits of whether or not this will be beneficial, because I do think this leaves a lot to question as far as that goes. But I also think that toppling the current regime in Iran, and I'm not a fan of regime change. I'm not. But in this specific instance, this one instance, I do think that the only chance that we stand to have at relative stability in the Middle East and turning stability over to the UAE and to the other people in the Middle East, and we'll talk a little bit about the background here in a minute. I do think that Khomeini had to go for that to happen. That the Islamic regime in Iran had to be toppled for that to happen. Does it mean it will happen? No. But I do think that it is the only chance that we have at achieving that. Now, could we argue that we shouldn't have done it? Maybe. Maybe. But who's going to? Who could besides us? Maybe Israel, but not without our backing, not without our money at least. And to say that this Trump is beholden to Israel, or this President Trump, is beholden to Israel in the same way that previous presidents have kind of bent the knee for Israel, is very disingenuous. Donald Trump is the only American president to directly insult Netanyahu. And Netanyahu was pissed about it. I didn't see that out of any other president. And I just don't see Trump bending over for anybody. You know, it's fun to mock him. It's fun to, to make all these claims. But let's be real for a second. Trump is almost 90 years old. He's never done anything except for what Trump wants to do. He's not bending over for fucking Netanyahu. Grow up. they would have to have some serious dirt on him. And I just don't see that being the case. Because with everything that he's gone through to get back into power this time, I just don't think there's anything you could hold over his head. They fucking tried to kill him twice. Who's they? I don't know. Somebody. According to all the anti-Israel people out there, Israel did. In which case, why would he be beholden to them? It just doesn't make sense. And look, conservatives. I'm really disappointed in my people today. To just immediately jump ship because you don't quite understand what's going on, I think is pathetic. And I don't think it's principled. As I always say, my principles will dictate where I'm at on any given situation. Those principles start with patriotism and loyalty to this country. So that means when this country makes a decision, whether it's one we all like or not, and to be clear, I don't like this decision, I'm sure not going to immediately go and start bashing the president over it, especially not while it's still happening. Why is it that there are Iranians right now that are acting more patriotic towards America than fucking conservatives? That's what I want to know. I've criticized Trump for a lot of things in recent weeks, given that it's the end of the first year and all that. But really, most of my criticisms come down to conservatives and Republicans in Congress, rather than Trump himself. Yeah, they're promises Trump made, but as a thinking, logical person, there are also things that I knew the president can't do without Congress. Like the SAVE Act. Just as an example. So anyway, Khomeini is dead. Apparently, that is the latest from Axios. We'll go through all the latest details here. Just briefly. Obviously, most of you are aware of them, but Iranian state media confirms Supreme Leader Khomeini is dead. Iranian government announced 40 days of public mourning following the martyrdom of the 86-year-old Ayatollah, who had ruled Iran for 36 years. President Trump celebrated Khomeini's death in a post on Truth Social, calling him one of the most evil people in history, and saying his killing was justice for Americans and others killed by Iran over the decades. Trump appeared to confirm that U.S. intelligence played a direct role in tracking and targeting Khomeini. Of course they did. Saying that the Ayatollah was unable to avoid our intelligence and highly sophisticated tracking systems. He warned that the bombing would continue uninterrupted throughout the week or as long as necessary to achieve what he called the goal of peace throughout the Middle East and indeed the world. Look, what happened 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, the President Trump had the first meeting, a week ago, whatever it was, right? Had the first meeting of, what is it, his peace accord or his peace union or whatever the fuck it's called. I know, I'm supposed to know these things, not you, but I'll admit, I rolled my eyes at it when I first heard about it. But suddenly, it hit me last night that, oh, this is what he was doing. Why did Trump create the peace team, or God damn it, what is it called? All right, now I gotta look it up. Hang on. Yeah. Jeopardy music, all that shit. Board of Peace. There we go. Established January 2026, formally launched at the WEF in Davos, with stated purpose promoting peace, stability, and governance in conflict-affected regions. Board was created following the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2803. Chairman for life, Donald Trump, who holds exclusive authority to appoint successors, invite new members, and modify the board structure. Executive board, U.S. senior officials, international figures, such as Rubio, Kushner, Witkoff, Robert Gabriel, Tony Blair, AJ Banga, and Mark Rowan. Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Bahrain, Morocco, Kosovo, Albania, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, Pakistan, Argentina, Paraguay, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Hungary, Bulgaria, Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, pretty sure both of those were said already, but whatever, and Belarus. Did you realize it was that many countries? I didn't realize it was that many countries. Board has already pledged significant resources, including $10 billion from the U.S., $7 billion from 9 other member states, to fund reconstruction and security operations in Gaza. International Stabilization Force will consist of 20,000 troops, with Egypt and Jordan training a 12,000-member police force. All right. They had their first meeting roughly a week ago. Do you think maybe that at that meeting it was discussed by all the regional partners? Speaking of which, let me pull this up here. That peace could not actually be had in the region until Iran, until Khomeini specifically, was no longer a nuclear threat. Look, how many times does the Iranian parliament, whatever it's called, who gives a shit, but, government, need to chant death to America, need to swear that no matter how many times we stop them, they'll just keep rebuilding a nuke before we take them literally. And before they're a threat to us, not just Iran or Israel. Let me pull this in here. My geography is not the best in the world, but here's Google Earth. Iran, of course, is right here. Big country. And you have Qatar, UAE, Oman, Dubai's right there. Iraq, Syria, Jordan. Which country is this again? Oh, Saudi Arabia. I knew that. I didn't realize Saudi Arabia was quite as big as it was. Yemen. Sudan over here. Egypt, Libya, right? Turkey up here. Azerbaijan right here. Afghanistan, Pakistan to the right. And Turkmenistan above. All of those people are on the Board of Peace. The one country in this hell-ridden area of the globe that is not on the Board of Peace is Iran. Again, do we think maybe that the first meeting of the Board of Peace was to talk about how there could be peace in the region with Iran? Do you think maybe the talks with Iran, mediated by Qatar, I believe, immediately after the meeting with the Board of Peace, were a final opportunity for Iran to come to the table, which obviously they likely refused. So maybe this isn't just a whim of Donald Trump. Maybe this is well thought out strategy, well planned ahead strategy, and that he has the support of literally every nation in the Middle East. Many of these nations don't like us launching attacks from their nation to Iran because, of course, they don't want the risk of being hit by Iran. Wasn't true this time. We moved equipment into bases in every single country that borders it, essentially. And again, they literally chant in the government routinely, "Death to America. Death to Americans." In fact, their supporters, their Islamic supporters, still do it. Meet Khalil Ahmad. He's from Islamabad, Pakistan, according to his page here. And he's made my list, and will be making the reported list here after this, because he was on the Death to America trending on X, and it looks like it's gone, so let me just go to his... Oh, I closed it. Hang on one second. That's what I get. Pull it up here. But I'm not going to be stupid enough to show my history on live stream. There we go. All right. Where'd he say it? Okay, did he delete it? He deleted it. Unless it's under replies, maybe. Oh no, there it is. Death to Trump, death to Netanyahu, death to America, death to Israel. Yeah, he's posting it over and over and over. I don't know why they believe this stuff. I just know they do. And we're awful fucking foolish. Awful foolish. We're not taking it literally. I understand these aren't always the brightest people on the planet. I understand that a lot of them don't actually have the ability to carry out their desires. But when you have a nation state that is trying to grow the ability, that is run by people that believe like Mr. Khalil Ahmed here, it would be pretty fucking foolish for us to just let that continue. We didn't tell them to chant death to America. They chose us as an enemy. It's not our fault that they chose a bigger, stronger enemy. And I don't see why we would waste any more time arguing with them. Just eliminate the threat so we can move on. And look, with Iran's Islamic regime gone, now the most powerful influences in the region who have shown peace and stability for decades now, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, now they can rise up in the vacuum and maybe bring some stability back to the region. Maybe the Persian people of Iran, who are remarkably different than the people of Iraq and Iran. I get to us in America, it's all the same place, right? It's all just desert, it's all sand. It's all Muslim. But the fact is, the Persian people are significantly different than the people in Iraq, than the people in Afghanistan, etc. Pakistan. It's not the same thing. On top of that, we eliminated Venezuela. Actually, let me back up. On top of that, we are at war with China. I say it all the time. And Americans need to wake the fuck up. We are at war. Not a cold war. Although not necessarily a hot war by traditional sense. But we are actively at war with China. They are actively trying to destroy the United States of America through many means. They have two major allies in this. Well, they have a few, but they have had two major allies, Iran and Russia. Russia's too busy tied up with Ukraine. They're spread pretty thin. They're struggling as it is. They can't do shit. Iran, way over their weight class. Can't do much, but they have oil. Something that China desperately needs. Iran supplies 20% of the world's oil. 80% of that goes to China. Matter of fact, I'd be interested to see really quick. Let me pull this guy off screen here. I want to know Venezuela. For crude oil imports, recent data from 2025 shows Venezuela and Iran accounted for a combined roughly 20% of China's total crude oil. This is based on tracking by firms like Kepler and Vortexa, which account for shadow fleet shipments that evade official records and sanctions. Official Chinese customs data underreport these due to relabeling via third countries like Malaysia. They put Iran around 15%, Venezuela around 5%, essentially. Some analysis combines sanction sources, including Russia, at higher shares, but specifically for Venezuela and Iran, 15 to 20% from Columbia University's Center on Global Energy aligns with aggregated estimates, while others note 18 to 22% when including slight variations in monthly data or broader 2025 averages. For natural gas, Venezuela and Iran account for negligible or zero. Oh, okay. I thought they got natural gas from there too, but I guess just crude. 20% of China's crude oil is now controlled by us. Just because you don't recognize everything that is at play, maybe you shouldn't immediately jump ship. MAGA. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I would like some credit for being consistent this entire time. I have always said I didn't like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I stand by that. What she posted today, she was never a conservative. She never has been. She never will be. And I wish we could revoke Congress members' retirements. Whatever. She's a snake. She always has been. This is what she said. Okay, I'm not sure what that's about. What the hell is Baal? Baal. See, this is why I can't stand people like this. Sorry, I know I'm teasing you guys, but this threw me off, this whole Baal thing. Baal was a prominent title and name in ancient Semitic religions, meaning lord or owner, used for various deities across Lebanon, particularly in Canaanite and Phoenician cultures. The most significant figure associated the name with Canaanite storm and fertility god, often identified with the deity Hadad. He was revered as a powerful warrior-like god who controlled rain, thunder, wind, and agriculture fertility, central for survival in arid region. In Canaanite mythology, Baal was central to the Baal cycle, a major epic from modern-day Syria, where he battles chaos, deities like Yamui and Mot, symbolizing the cyclical renewal of life through seasonal rains. He was believed to rule from Mount Zaphon to the highest peak. Hebrew Bible is portrayed as a false god and rival to Yahweh, the God of Israel. Israelites were repeatedly warned against idolatry and the worship of Baal, especially during periods of cultural conflict with Canaanite neighbors. Prophets like Elijah famously challenged Baal's worship, most notably in the contest to Mount Carmel. The term Baal appears in various forms. Today, Baal is also used in modern media and pop culture, such as in video games, anime, and literature, often drawing his mythological roots as a powerful storm-controlling deity or demonic figure. Over time, Baal became demonized in later religious traditions. In Christian and Islamic demonology, the name evolved into Beelzebub or Baal, a high-ranking demon associated with invisibility, deception, and evil influence. This transformation reflects the theological shift from polytheism to monotheism, where rival gods were reinterpreted demons. Okay. That still doesn't give me any connection to what the hell she's talking about. Apparently, there's a connection between Baal and child sacrifice. It's primarily documented in the Hebrew Bible and supported by archaeological evidence from Phoenician and Carthaginian sites where Baal was worshipped under names like Baal Hamon. In the Old Testament, prophets like Jeremiah and Ezekiel condemned the Israelites for sacrificing their children to Baal at a place called the TWTCH in the valley of Hinnom near Jerusalem. They have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons in the fire as offerings to Baal, something I did not command or mention, nor did it enter in my mind. This reflects the theological view that such acts were abhorrent violations of God's will. While some scholars debate whether all MLK offerings have involved actual sacrifice or were symbolic, the consensus based on physical and epigraphic evidence is that child sacrifice did occur, especially during the times of crisis, as a way to appease the gods and secure divine favor. Practice was not unique to Carthage, but was part of a broader Canaanite Phoenician religious tradition that the biblical authors strongly opposed. Yeah, no kidding. All right, so apparently her postings have only gotten more crazy throughout the day. This is one of the most recent things she shared, and not where I was planning on going, but it says, I'm old enough to remember 2 weeks ago, when Iran burned a statue of Baal in the middle of the Epstein Files release. Then our government bombed them. So write that down. Okay, first of all, he clearly represents more than one thing. So there's that. A second, you can also see that they're burning Trump and it looks like Netanyahu and Trump, I think. I can't really tell from this photo, but I think that's what they're burning there. But I mean, come on, guys. Really? Trump bombed Iran because they're anti-child sacrifice? That's really where we're at with this? People on X have lost their fucking minds. And thank God Marjorie Taylor Greene is no longer calling herself a Republican. Imagine being stupid enough to blame bombing a country because they're a nuclear threat while still having this up on your own website. You cannot make this up. Yet nobody's saying that they're actively a nuclear threat. What we're saying is they've threatened to continue their nuclear programs at any cost, no matter what, as long as they can. Because we bombed what they currently had and set them back many years, doesn't mean that the problem is forever fixed. This morning, let's see. Well, let's listen to what Charlie Kirk said on the matter, even though it sounds like he disagrees with what I'm saying.
The United States. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. That sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences.
That's true.
Especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia. But also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. Play cut 285.
Be all
Notice there's a lot
in
of
President
cuts.
Trump in helping Israel eliminate the nuclear threat. If we need to provide...
So I just want to point out real fast while we continue to listen to this. Notice that somebody cut this several times. Fine. And he said, I'm showing you the extreme. One of the extremes. Means he probably lands somewhere in the middle. A lot of things have changed since Charlie Kirk died. So to assume that because this is where he was in 2025, that this is where he'd be now, isn't exactly the same. And that would be an incorrect assumption, is my point. I never want to be on the side with Lindsey Graham either. I want to be clear about that. But let me finish.
Bombs to Israel, provide bombs. If we need to fly planes with Israel, do joint operations. But here's the bigger question. Wouldn't the world be better off if the Ayatollahs went away and replaced by something better? Wouldn't Iran be better off? It's time to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen. Let's close that chapter soon and start a new chapter in the Mideast, one of tolerance, hope, and peace.
Okay, that sounds good, but that's pathologically insane. I'm sorry, it is. How do you know it's going to be better? Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person
It's a fair question.
civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. Iran is hugely diverse. It is a massive country. Do the people agitating for war even know that? Because be clear, regime change is war. Just to understand, regime change is not like changing the head coach at the Chicago Bears. It's not how it works. It's
true.
not like a clean transfer. Typically in the Mideast, it's very messy, creates a quagmire, and then there is civil war. Do you understand how large Iran is? It's massive. It's a very big country. It's mountainous. It makes Afghanistan and Iraq look like a cakewalk. Just look at this beast of a country with all the different regions, all the different dialects, if we could put that up on screen. And then you have a major refugee concern of Mohammedans that will come to Europe and endanger more Christians and Jews, and Mohammedans that will come to America. No, that is wrong.
Well,
so
not
that
if we
is
don't
one
let 'em.
extreme. The other extreme is one that I have deep respect and reverence for, because I actually think if we had that other extreme, we would not have invaded Iraq. This other extreme is philosophically important. It's important to consider, and that's the Ron Paul extreme. And I love Ron Paul. Ron Paul is awesome. I would have Ron Paul on the show regularly. He is a hero because Ron Paul had the courage to challenge old sacred cows of the Republican Party. He made people defend the indefensible. But the Ron Paul perspective is strictly isolationist. I actually agree with a lot of this other extreme. A lot. I think it's healthy to have this other extreme more than the neoconservative extreme, because this extreme has been underrepresented in the public dialogue and discourse the last 20 years.
I also agree with that, rather.
I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe. I do think hearing out, and honestly, I agree with a lot of the more, I think isolationist is used as a pejorative, but let's just say restrained community. Take out the Ayatollah. Resist that temptation. That's not prudence. That's not self-control. That's something else talking. That's a zeal. And that very same zeal got us involved in a pile of garbage in Iraq. It all felt good with shock and awe in March of 2003. We're unstoppable. We're going to take Iraq in a weekend. Turns out, it didn't work that way. A lot of people died. A lot of Americans died unnecessarily.
I agree with most everything that he said. I also think that some things have happened since then. And I have a little bit more faith with Trump in charge than I have with literally anybody else before when it comes to something like this. I don't think he's going, let's say these strikes fail. They kind of haven't already, because Khomeini's dead. Most of Iran's leadership is dead, according to some of the other stories we'll get into here in a minute. But if for whatever reason the IRGC maintains some power and more strikes isn't going to get rid of them, I don't see Trump going, all right, well, it's time to go boots on the ground. I don't. I see Lindsey Graham doing that. I don't see Trump doing that. Look, I have no love for Lindsey Graham, and I don't like being aligned with him on anything, especially this. But I do think that there is some prudence in these strikes, so long as we're able to accomplish this quickly, without boots on the ground. Saying that there should be zero American lives lost is, of course, ideal, but it's also fairly unrealistic. I would hope that there are none. It better be minimal. But you literally cannot guarantee it any time that you are sending missiles somebody's way. So I'm not going to be a child either and pretend that it's an impossibility. And while I agree with everything that Charlie Kirk said in that clip, I think that given the circumstances since the time of that clip, that there is some logic behind these strikes. Is it perfect logic? No. Is there a chance for this not to work out? Yes. Like he said, Earth is a very diverse place. Who is going to rise up in the end? I don't know. I do know that it really can't be much worse. It really can't be. And I think that we have 3 years now to make sure that it isn't worse. The fact is, Trump is not playing this like all of the neocons played prior to this. And so far, when it comes to foreign strikes, what he says has been correct. And so I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Doesn't mean I changed my position on forever wars. Doesn't mean I changed my position on isolationism. But this strike does have the potential to allow us to be isolationist, because being isolationist is only possible when we don't have people constantly plotting against us. On top of that, even if I'm against these strikes, I'm certainly not going to do shit like Marjorie Taylor Greene, where I'm posting IRGC propaganda without any confirmation whatsoever from American sources. Like she did here. This is the post that I was originally looking for. I did not campaign for this. I did not donate money for this. I did not vote for this in elections or Congress. This is heartbreaking and tragic. Okay? I'll give you it's heartbreaking and tragic, yes. And how many more innocent will die? Well, hopefully none. But can you ever guarantee none in a military operation? No. Grow up. What about our own military? This is not what we thought MAGA was supposed to be. How do you have any fucking clue? First of all, you left MAGA a long time ago, so how do you have any idea what the fuck MAGA is supposed to be? I want America put first. Now, maybe I don't see exactly how this puts America first. Does that mean that it doesn't put America first? No. And because I personally recognize that China is at war with us, I do see how this is putting America first. I do see how dealing with Venezuela was putting America first. As well as Cuba, for that matter. And I also, just as a man, want our president, even if it's a fuck up, to back up what he says. And the fact is, he drew a red line with Iran. Iran crossed that red line. No matter how much I don't want war, I do want that red line backed up. Because we all remember what happened when Obama drew a red line and then did absolutely nothing about it. In fact, that's how we got to where we are today. Big part of it, anyway. When it comes to Iran and the Middle East. I can tell you this. If you find yourself siding with all of America's enemies in a decision that this administration or this country made, you're not a principled conservative. And if you're just reacting emotionally without taking time to discuss, to debate, to think these things through, you're not a principled conservative. Not by my definition. For fuck's sakes, if you're a conservative, shut the fuck up about the Epstein files. Yes, I mean that. I'll go to task with anybody on that. So fucking sick of hearing about it. Yes, Bondi and Patel fucked up. Trump should have never promised in the campaign something that if he would have thought about for 10 seconds, he would have realized he couldn't deliver. But he is trying to deliver at least what he can. And at the end of the day, if you thought that he was just going to mow over the Constitution, mow over rights, mow over 250 years of legal precedent to go after people you believe are evil, and I'm not saying they're not evil, I'm saying that you being convinced of it is not the same thing as having definitive proof of a crime being committed by a person, then you're an idiot. But what's new? Let's listen to Trump's latest comments real quick on the situation.
Operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably...
Can we not at least appreciate an American president telling the people of a nation to take over their government? Please, can we please just appreciate just that in the 21st century? No matter how dumb of an idea it might be. It's been since 1776 since we've heard an American president say that.
Your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
We have a bit of breaking news that has just come in. Right now, the Iranian state media is telling the people of Iran that the Ayatollah has been killed. Again, Iran's state-run media is now confirming that the Ayatollah has...
That's a couple hours old now. All right, so that's the latest from Trump directly. I think it was a good speech. I think it was well spoken. But look, again, even if this is not something you are thrilled about, it feels pretty, I don't know, unpatriotic to immediately condemn your own country's actions on the world stage. This guy's claiming Michael Knowles makes a great point here. Let's see what it is.
If this goes south, President Trump is risking not only his foreign policy credibility, but perhaps his whole presidential legacy in precisely the way George W. Bush did. However, if this works, if the United States ousts the Ayatollah, who has been an enemy of the United States since the regime took power in 1979, if the United States succeeds in regime change in Iran and helps to bring about a more pro-Western and more popular regime there, this will be the greatest foreign policy accomplishment of any president in our lifetime since the end of the Cold War. So all of that to say, we don't know what's going to happen, and anyone who tells you what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after in a war is lying to you or ignorant. However, the one thing we know with certainty is the stakes could not possibly be higher for the White House. Yeah. If this goes...
Do we agree with that statement at least? Apologize for that. If you didn't hear, I had to sneeze. Do we not at least agree with that statement that if this does work out, well, first, if it fails, it's going to be a massive failure. I definitely agree with that. If this does work out, we're able to limited strikes, take out the Iranian regime, and give the power back to what ends up being a more peaceful, at least with us, nation. Not a perfect nation, but one that is not actively chanting death to America every week in their state capital. Would that not be a huge success? Would that not have been worth it? Remember, too, as we just learned, Iran provides 15%, at least, of Chinese oil. Crude oil. And I can't say it enough times. China is at war with us. They are actively trying to destroy us. They are smart enough to know they cannot go to a hot war with us. At best, we can get into a nuclear Armageddon. China could with us, at best. Trying not to sneeze again. Short of a nuclear Armageddon, they couldn't do shit. They are using asymmetrical warfare, 9D chess, whatever you want to call it, every avenue possible to destroy the United States from America within. And if we don't start taking that seriously, as I believe Trump is, as I believe this is what Venezuela, Cuba, Iran is really about, we're screwed. Another thing that we've accomplished here in this attack with Venezuela and Iran, aside from showing that we are the dominant military power in the world and we can reach out and touch anybody with impunity if necessary, aside from accomplishing those two things, which you might not believe is very effective, but it's damn sure very effective if you're one of the people that is on the list of enemies of the U.S. government. Believe me, when dictators in third world countries who are on that list of enemies see, oh shit, they can just come grab me in the middle of the night, or they can just put a missile through my window literally any time, and I will never see it coming. That has an effect. That has a big effect. But on top of that, we have shown all of the BRICS nations and all of the nations that have aligned themselves with either China or Russia that no matter what China or Russia say or promise, they're on their fucking own. China and Russia are not coming to save them, as we have seen. We all know damn well if China tried to invade Taiwan, we would be bombing China within 24 hours. And we probably should. For our sake. We have now taken out Maduro, Ayatollah Khomeini, with complete impunity, and without so much as a few harsh words from either Xi or Putin. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, at least in the immediate aftermath, with Venezuela, who was very close with Russia specifically, Putin didn't even say anything. It was his, Ministry of Defense or something. It said something. And that was it. He said something. Who gives a shit? That is extremely valuable too. The fact that somebody had the balls to put China and Russia on their back foot. To prove that their saber rattling is nothing but that. That matters. I don't know why I still have him up. And it has an effect. You guys can let me know what you think. JBU@USA.com to send me an email directly. X.com/JBU_show. Please don't forget to like and follow. I appreciate it very much. And if you were trying to watch the show last night on Friday, what is typically our biggest and busiest night, I apologize. I didn't get on. I wasn't feeling good. I didn't have anybody to take over the show for me. Normally I'll at least go on and, try and do 20 or 30 minutes or something just to make up for that, but I couldn't do it last night. Nonetheless, we're here tonight. We'll be here tomorrow. And every Wednesday through Sunday going forward, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Although on Sunday, we typically do it a little earlier in the day since, Most people are pretty bored on Sundays. But besides that, what other show is going to hang out with you on the weekends? Everyone else has lives. It's just me. Anyway, let's see what we got for some videos. Let's take a break from Iran for a minute and get into some less, I don't know, devastating bullshit. Well, I guess before we do that, let's take a few looks at Iran in videos on X here. This is them taking down a statue of Khomeini. Turn that down a little bit, because that's pretty awful. Clearly, they're very devastated. Very upset with the U.S. Although, really, guys, you should be inside. You heard Trump. Listen to that excitement. That is like inner demons escaping. And I mean that in a good way. I don't know if you can mean that in a good way, but I meant it in a good way. Let's see what we got here. Okay, that comes after this. Of course, there were protests today in New York. As you can see, they already had pre-printed signs. I'll have another picture here in a second that shows the signs. See one right there, the yellow. And pamphlets. Almost like it wasn't grassroots. Almost like it never is. Let's see what this says. Stop Trump's... I gotta stop eating while I'm talking on air, sorry. Stop Trump's war on Iran. Trump's unprovoked illegal attack on Iran is an act of war that threatens to cause unthinkable destruction. Huge numbers of Iranians, U.S. service members, and people in neighboring countries could die as the conflict spirals out of control. Yeah, and millions of people could die from a meteor tomorrow. Iran has not attacked the United States and has no intention to. Really? Huh. You mean Iran, the state, hasn't directly attacked us? They just chant death to America in their capital every week. Not because they want to attack us, but because they actually really like us. Is that what it is? Is that like, oh, I hate you, but really, shut the fuck up. Somebody not being able to do something yet is not the same thing as somebody not doing something. Again, you're not strong because you're too weak to fight somebody. You're strong when you're capable and choose not to. Or peaceful, whatever. I meant peaceful, not strong. You're not peaceful when you're too weak to attack somebody. You're peaceful when you're strong enough to attack somebody and choose not to. That's what I meant. Iran was too weak. Not peaceful. Big difference. And has no intention to. The government has been engaged in diplomatic negotiations up to the last very moment, and has again and again insisted that it has no intention of developing a nuclear weapons program. Well, they would be the first country ever to reach 60% enrichment without building a nuclear bomb. Do we really think Iran is that benevolent? Which Trump claims to have obliterated last year anyway. Yeah, and they swore to rebuild. This is a war of choice that Trump is dragging the country into as part of his openly colonial foreign policy that seeks a world where he runs everything. Did we colonize Venezuela? Did we colonize Iran? Are we planning on colonizing Iran? Have we colonized fucking anywhere? No. Massive civilian casualties will be an inevitable part of Trump's war in Iran. No, it's not. In fact, the U.S. has a track record of the least civilian casualties, except when Obama was in office. And the Iranian people have already suffered so greatly under sanctions imposed by the U.S. government. Yeah, you don't suffer under sanctions. Or rather, suffer from the sanctions. See, here's the thing about sanctions. Oh, Venezuela couldn't do socialism because the U.S. sanctioned it. Well, the socialism must not have been that good if not trading with the United States meant collapsing. There are 193 nations on Earth. If your socialism is so weak that not trading with one of them makes it completely unable to function, maybe it's not the sanctions. And same thing with Iran. How much trading were they doing with us anyway? Any excuse coming from the Trump administration about human rights or democracy is ridiculous. They clearly have no concern for the well-being of Iranians. Really? Because that speech sounded like it was directed almost entirely at the people of Iran and nobody else. Trump promised to bring peace to the world while he was running for office, but he has done nothing but left a trail of devastation. Okay. The world over. The people of this country are fed up with endless wars. Yeah, that's why these people were in the street protesting when Biden was bombing Syria, right? And look, I've complained about Trump continuing actions in Syria. I don't see any benefit to Syria. Anyway, just to show you, because I said I would. There you go. Here's the video from the protest. It was clearly not out of nowhere. All printed signs, all ready to go. PSLweb.org. I'll go to that in a second, see what it's about. Yeah, we're not going to war. We're engaging them. That's not the same thing as war. It's not. It says, the Hands Off Iran protest taking place in Times Square. Comes from Wall Street Apes. New York City right now is being organized by the People's Forum. You've probably heard that name before. The People's Forum is an NGO that has received over $20 million from a billionaire who lives in China and is connected to the CCP. That goes without saying, you literally can't be a billionaire in China unless you are part of the party. The NGO's primary funding over $20 million from Neville Roy Singman. Singman's residence in Shanghai, his business ties are to the CCP, he attends CCP-related events, and funds media outlets echoing China's state narratives. Why do we allow this? Why do we allow these foreign op NGOs to operate in our country? I don't understand. I really don't. You have this take from a girl who apparently lives in my area, but once lived in Iran. There she is in front of Seattle. Tell me about the Islamophobia. Tell that to the 7-year-old me who was forced to wear this to school every day since 7 years old. Tell the 8-year-old me that she was about to be molested by an adult man in a very conservative neighborhood on her way to school. And then if she didn't run fast enough and the school wasn't close enough, who knows what could have happened. Tell me my entire childhood wasn't taken away from me. Tell me my adolescence in Iran was not filled with terror. Tell me I wasn't oppressed and abused and that I'm just an Islamophobe. All right, so the biggest story of this Iran thing, I guess we didn't cover this yet, so I suppose we better before we move on, is this claim right here. Scores of students killed in strike during U.S.-Israel attack. Iranian officials claim scores of students were killed in an attack Saturday morning. The destroyed building is a primary school for girls in the south of Iran, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman something accused the U.S. and Israel of an egregious and unwarranted act of aggression. I just want to point out that I did not see a single body in any of the stories today regarding this. I'm not saying that doesn't mean there was any, but that is odd and unusual for this type of scenario. The claim that we just randomly targeted Iranian cities is, of course, bullshit. CNN is unable to independently verify. They've reached out to U.S. and Israeli militaries for comment, which we said we were investigating. So here's the deal. A lot of people early on today were saying this footage was old. That doesn't seem to be the case. It does seem to be legit footage. But the claims that it was a U.S. strike on this primary school, first, are from the IRGC, which means, to Americans, nothing. They might as well have said that we hit a hospital full of cancer patients. Doesn't matter. It's meaningless without any sort of corroboration from a meaningful source. Second, the claim that it started with like 40 students, and then it went to like 65, and then it was 85, and then I saw at one point over 150 killed. First of all, how many kids were in this school? This was like one of 8 schools within like 6 blocks. And also happened to be the only school that wasn't actually labeled a school on Google Earth. Just pointing it out. And then also, well, again, the claim comes from the IRGC. None of our news agencies should have reported it as anything other than a claim from the IRGC that cannot be corroborated and is likely being misstated. Because the IRGC has almost never said anything factual ever. And most Iranians don't believe them. There are also pictures, which could be AI generated, could not be, nobody knows. Again, not a single body was shown being pulled out of this rubble. So it's possible that a school was hit that nobody was in. We did warn, as we always do, civilians to get out of the area, stay away from military bases. But further, most Iranians don't believe it. And there are photos that show that it was a missile, or could have been at least, a missile from Iran that failed to leave Iran. That, they shot at us and then it crash back down. Not the first time that's happened. Actually pretty common in places like Iran. They're using often pretty shoddy equipment. But then you have people like the Hodge twins. And this is why my provocative title for today. They post this shit. I love the Hodge twins. I do. But what the fuck are you doing? Why are you sharing IRCG propaganda and treating it as real? Even if you're against the strikes, fine. Why are you treating IRGC propaganda as real? This is not a war with Iran. What do we tell the parents of these dead children? I think we need to stop lying to ourselves and admit the truth about what's going on. Innocent children and other non-combatants who are no threat to America are now dead because of our relationship with Israel. Bombing a nation over the span of a year is most definitely a war, and we are right in the middle of it. I guess they must be hooked on the Israel thing too. Look, I don't agree with everything Israel does. I don't particularly like Netanyahu. I think that the war in Gaza has gone on far too long. I shouldn't say I was all for it, but I was fine with it until about the 1 year mark. And then at that point, it was like, all right, you need to wrap this up. You've pretty much destroyed the whole place. Nobody's willing to take these people, so you got to figure something out. But they haven't done that yet. And I do acknowledge they're in a tough spot. These people in Palestine have sworn to kill every Israeli. It's pretty hard to just let that go. Which, ironically, if they were committing genocide, they would just kill them. But they're not. And, again, just because our and Israel's interest might align on something like this particular strike on Iran does not mean we are acting on Israel's behalf. Just because it benefits Israel too doesn't mean we are acting on their behalf. I don't see Netanyahu convincing Trump to do anything that Trump doesn't want to do. Trump has been consistent about Iran. According to Steven Crowder, who provided receipts, you can go check, since 2011. I can verify. I mean, I watched the video that he shared, so I agree with the 2011 number, but I can verify from my own experience that he's been consistent on Iran and Iran not having a nuclear weapon since 2016. This is one of those things. Like, no, I didn't think that striking Iran was the best move either. But I also knew that Trump has always considered it. And so I always knew that it was a possibility when I voted for Trump. If you didn't, that's your own fault. He was very open about it. And this shit just... This is one of the photos that allegedly shows the missile having been fired and then coming back down, allegedly onto the school. There's a lot of dispute. As you saw, there was a proposed community note. Every one of those photos has a dispute, as things like this usually do. I can't confirm or deny one way or another, so you're just gonna have to make your own decision on it. But to immediately jump to the idea that it was us is pretty ignorant, the last time we missed a target, there's a couple pictures of the target area. Let me see if I can grab one here. I thought I saved one. Yeah, right here. Allegedly, this is the school. And I did check, at least with AI, and AI confirmed that this was correct. Again, take that for what it's worth, but this is the school. This is all military infrastructure. So, one, why is there a school right next to the military infrastructure? Well, because the Iranians don't give a shit about their people and don't mind using them as human shields. Two, the last time we missed a target by even this much, Hitler was still alive. Which is why I find it really hard to believe. Is it possible that we were aiming for something in this square and hit this square? Yes. I guarantee we didn't do it on purpose. And so again, if you find yourself siding with America's enemies and their propaganda, don't call yourself a patriot. I side with my brother when he's wrong. I'll still tell him he's wrong. I'll still call him out when we're in private. But in public, I side with him. And I side with my country in public, on the world stage, even when it's wrong. And I'll call it out in private. But I also know that we would never, and to believe that our soldiers would be willing to target a girls' school, fuck you. This person says, you really expect me to believe the Iranian regime reports that the U.S. bombed a girls' school and killed 40 children on a Saturday morning? Red flags. On a Saturday morning, girls' school in Iran? That's a good point. And as reported by the Iranian regime that kills women and girls over not wearing a hijab. Also a good point. Libertarian Party of Texas did the same thing. ABC News, AP News, all did the same thing. Blaming us for, the bombing on the children without any confirmation. Again, nobody but the IRGC has actually made this claim. Yet, all these people, including supposedly pro-Trump people, have jumped on it. Why? Why the rush to jump on it? That's what I don't get. Why are you so eager to condemn our own soldiers? Not Trump. Do you really believe Trump ordered them to bomb a girls' school? No. You believe our soldiers fucked up that bad. Or didn't care that much. Fuck you. It's that simple. Fuck you. UN Security General said, I condemn today's military escalation in the Middle East, the use of force by the United States and Israel against Iran, and the subsequent retaliation by Iran across the region undermines international peace and security. The UN is useless. Utterly useless. Further, Richard Bergen, Labour Party MP in Britain, said the bombing of Iran by the US and Israel is an illegal act of aggression. It risks inflaming the Middle East. We must oppose Trump's reckless ripping up of the international law, which makes the world less safe. There is no international law. And pursue a path of diplomacy, dialogue, and respect for the UN Charter. These are the reasons that Great Britain is not our ally. If they disagreed with us, they'd shut the fuck up and tell us in private. John LaFerve said, I am American first. I am for no new wars. I got duped in Iraq and Afghanistan. Libya and Syria were a disgrace. But what Trump did in Iran today is beyond incredible. It takes the balls of a leader who has been arrested, shot at, and given zero fucks. Any other president would have thought about election season. Trump did what he thought was right. And it will have generational change. America is back. Mega viral mugshot. Rated by the FBI. A lot of people are on that list. Again, I want to know what you guys think on this. Where are you guys at? Was this the right thing to do? I don't know whether it was the right thing to do. I said that at the beginning, I'll say it again. I don't know that it was the right thing to do. I do know that I'm on our side until proven otherwise. That's for damn sure. I do know that I'm not going to condemn it when I simply don't know. And I damn sure won't be siding with the Labour MP of Britain, the head of the UN, or the IRGC, let alone liberals. In other news, judge has finalized a $345 million verdict against the leftist group Greenpeace after their environmental militants attempted to violently block the Dakota Access oil pipeline. Greenpeace now says they'll likely be forced into bankruptcy. Can't really do this fast anymore, but thank God. Again, I don't know why we allow the amount of damage that Greenpeace has been able to do to the American people. I don't know why we allow it.
At that time, what do you remember? Well, Bill, I took office on December.
And think about how long, real quick, how long and how much money it's taken to get justice on this. Remember how fast they rounded up the grandmas on January 6th? Watch this.
North Dakota at that time. What do you remember? Well, Bill, I took office on December 15th of November 16th, and at that time there was thousands of protesters camping illegally on federal land. This protest, there was a separate trial that showed that the Obama administration, which was still in office at that time, was putting their thumb on the scale on the side of the protesters, and this hurt the tribe, it hurt their casino, it hurt their revenues. The local ranchers and farmers are being terrorized. The law was being broken every possible which way, not just trespassing, but human trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, ATF issues, arms issues. I mean, this place was a toxic mix of protests, all in there grifting and trying to grab national attention. And I'd say today's ruling is really for the rule of law. I mean, in North Dakota, we understand free speech. We support free speech. But there's a difference between free speech and violence, and I think this is a timely and appropriate outcome from the jury.
Well, I'm going to explain a simple difference between the left and the right, too, on free speech specifically. On the right, we recognize that free speech is the right not just to speak freely and to have a free press, but to peacefully assemble. If we are to unpeacefully assemble on the right, if we were to, theoretically, in a hypothetical world, we certainly wouldn't be confused that the government would condemn it. We recognize that if you cross that line, you are making yourself an enemy. Why we don't take it lightly. And we don't do it every Thursday. Ay, yay. Here's a interesting Democrat take on the matter of Iran.
Good.
I know what you're thinking. Wait till you hear the voice. You'll be even more shocked. But trust me, it'll surprise you.
Morning. I guess you're waking up exactly like I am, learning that the United States is at war with Iran.
We're not at war.
I want to talk to you about why I, a Democrat who did not vote for President Trump, do not support President Trump, do not like President Trump, why I am 100% in support of this, because I think it's going to be good for our country in the long run. The first thing you should know is this situation is not anything like Iraq or Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, you basically had terrorists hiding in tunnels that were secretly being supported by the government. This isn't like that at all. You know, the IRGC actually have to specifically live outside of population centers because the people of Iran hate them so much and would kill them if they actually had access to guns. This was a country that was actually a modern paradise in the Middle East before the Iranian Revolution. And the way these people have kept power has been basically to institute this hardcore theocratic version of Islamism. They've been oppressing women, they've been forcing gay men to get vaginoplasty and become trans, which is just literally insane. This is an awful, awful government. The most important thing I want to stress to liberals out there, though, is this. We will get so much as a country if we succeed at doing this. For so many administrations, Obama, Trump 1, Biden, before they've come into office, every single one of these presidents has said, we want to pivot away from the Middle East and focus more on Asia. In every single one of these administrations, Republicans and Democrats have been unable to do this because Iran has been destabilizing it the entire time. If the IRGC falls, what is going to happen is Saudi Arabia, which is a far more stable country, is going to play a role in basically stopping all this terrorism from spreading through the region. You're going to see a lack of support for the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. These groups are not going to have the same missiles, guns, firepower, funding that they used to. This is massively going to stabilize the Middle East, meaning we can focus on China, meaning we can focus on our alliance with India. We can focus more on Russia. This would be so good for our country. Even if you don't like this president, because I don't, this is the right thing to do.
I think it's a not only a well-reasoned take, it's basically where I stand. That's
Good morning.
Brianna Wu, apparently. All right. Let's mock some leftists.
Trump said what?
Oh, God. Maybe I shouldn't do this to my audience.
Trump said what?
You were to pass the SAFE Act. I think it would be really important.
No!
The SAVE Act is clearly voter suppression. Here are the facts.
The legislation would require all Americans to prove their citizenship status, presenting documents in person registering to vote, and every time they update their registration information.
Correct. So, for 99% of voters, that would be once. Unless you move out of state. Really. I mean, that's like the only time you update your voter registration.
For most Americans, this will be presenting either a passport or a birth certificate at their local election office.
While this may seem easy for some, the reality is that there are more than 140 million Americans that just don't have a passport. And as many as 69 million women who have changed their names after marriage and therefore don't have a birth certificate that matches their new married legal name.
Okay. Believe it or not, there's lots of ways to deal with that. Also, believe it or not, there are more than 140 million Americans that don't vote. In fact, there are barely 140 million Americans that do vote out of 350. Saying 140 million Americans don't have a passport, it's pretty meaningless. 100% of that 140 million could not vote. Could be non-voting. Could be children, whatever. Second, what did they tell you just 2 seconds before that? Oh, you need a birth certificate or a passport. Oh. And I'm pretty sure for the married women, a birth certificate along with a marriage certificate suffices as well.
Also, the IDs that many of us carry around every day, like military IDs, tribal IDs, and even real IDs, are not acceptable forms of documentation on their own under the SAVE Act because they don't actually indicate that you are a citizen or list your place of birth.
Because the documentation would need to be presented in person, this would effectively eliminate online voter registration and would make it so much harder for nearly 60 million rural Americans to register to vote.
Yeah, we're okay with that. 100% of rural Americans, we're okay with that. It should be in person. You should have never been able to register online in the first place.
The SAVE Act is not designed to save our elections.
It's designed to block American citizens from voting and making their voices heard.
Literally none of that was true. But Trump's the one that lies all day, every day, right? Just gets tiring after a while. But whatever. What are you gonna do, right? Besides combat it. We'll come to this one in a minute. That one's gonna get me some backlash probably, but So remember when I said earlier that we're at war with China? Or rather,
Her name is
or more accurately, China is at war with us? You remember when 2 Chinese nationals working from the Wuhan lab were caught bringing illegal biological samples into the United States? You remember when there was a lab, a clandestine lab tied to China, found a month ago and disappeared after less than 24 hours from the news, despite the fact multiple people had gotten sick as a direct result of this lab, despite the fact multiple deadly viruses were found in this Las Vegas neighborhood? Meet the latest.
Her name is Miss Han Cheng-Xuan. She is a citizen of China, and she's currently pursuing her PhD at the Huazhong University of Science and Technology, located in Wuhan, China. At the Detroit Metropolitan Airport.
Oh, I'm sorry, where was that? Located where?
Was also caught by the feds trying to smuggle in biological material. It was a type of roundworm. When the officers took Ms. Han's electronics from her, they found that all of them had been wiped 3 days prior to her coming to the U.S. She was going to be doing the bulk of her scientific research over at a laboratory at the University of Michigan.
Real quick. Yeah, so we were educating her here in the United States, by the way, at the University of Michigan. But when he says her phone was wiped, according to the feds, you know, the feds have a device that they plug into your phone, bypasses your lock screen. They don't need your password. They plug it in just like a phone charger, just like this. Take your phone and they plug it into their little device, just like this. And then they can access all the information. It can even access deleted information. Any stored information via the account or the hardware on the phone can be accessed. Now, we don't have hard disk drives, so it's not as if they can do that kind of recovery. But it means that the phone wasn't just everything on it was just physically deleted. It means that it was professionally wiped, overwritten, and then put back to normal. Random people don't do that.
However, instead of just hopping on a plane and flying over to Michigan, Ms. Han began to do something odd. While still in China, she began to send package after package to 2 people who worked at the University of Michigan laboratory. An inspection of the package yielded a book with an envelope tucked into the middle of the pages. The envelope contained a handwritten note with 28 shapes and a labeling scheme with each shape. And then if you actually look at a photograph of what was sent, it was basically a piece of paper with a bunch of shapes drawn on it, and each shape having a different code attached to it. And then at the very top of the page, in order to, I guess, fool anybody that might find this piece of paper other than the recipient, Ms. Han wrote the following, quote, "Hello, this is a fun letter with interesting patterns. I hope you can enjoy the pleasure within it." Very cool, Ms. Han. I'm sure nobody will figure that one out. Now, in terms of what those shapes were, the ones that were drawn on that particular piece of paper, here's what the FBI wrote. You can cut out the shape with a pair of scissors, dip it into water, and that way extract whatever biological elements Ms. Han was trying to ship. Now, it's unclear whether any of the stuff that Ms. Han was shipping over in these packages was either dangerous or banned. However, though, regardless of whether it was dangerous or not, we do know 2 things. For one, Ms. Han was shipping it here from her lab in Wuhan, meaning that whatever she was shipping, she didn't just feel like she could make it here in America. She felt like she had to ship it over. And secondly, shipping this stuff without declaring it is patently illegal. And again, it really does make you wonder that if all this work was truly on the up and up, it's not clear why she would have to mail these specimens in this secretive way
rather than just remake them over in the Michigan lab. When the officers took Ms. Hahn's electronics from her, they found that all of them had been wiped 3 days prior to her coming to the U.S. And when she was asked why she did this, well, here was the exchange. Quote, Hahn stated she deleted the content of her electronic device prior to coming to the United States. Hahn stated she deleted the content to start fresh while she was in the United States. Very cool.
China is at war with us. And we better start recognizing it. And it seems pretty clear that they're pretty bent on using biological agents in this war against us. If I were you, I'd stock up on antibiotics, ivermectin, things like that. They're not a sponsor of the show, but you can check out things like the Jace case. There are lots of places that sell them these days. Personally, I believe you should be able to buy any drug you want over the counter, let alone antibiotics. There's no reason at all that you cannot buy antibiotics over the counter, but in the meantime, you can at least buy them that way. Just because I can't stand this woman, here is a common talking head on X blatantly lying on CNN and immediately being called out for it.
It's like I am called a domestic terrorist constantly by my government. My president just stood at the State of the Union and said the Democrats are evil monsters who should be killed. If that person...
No. Evil monsters...
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Hold on. Evil monsters who should be killed. Pretty sure that's what leftists say about conservatives all the time. I have never seen Trump, let alone any conservative, publicly make that statement. She just says it like it's pure fact.
Okay, he said, I will be accurate. Okay, Tim,
for anyone to be killed.
Tim,
I'm sorry, that's
Tim, I will be accurate.
Yeah, the president never called for anyone to be killed.
Okay.
I cannot stand it.
I like you way too much.
The mothering.
Okay, Tim, my point
let's give her
is,
an opportunity to correct what she said.
the American government is
But
already.
he didn't
He
say
did not
that they
say.
should
He
be
wanted. He
killed.
said we
He
were
didn't say
the enemy and we were terrible. Would you say that that is fair?
I think he did say he looked at the Democrats and said these people are crazy. But Lee,
He said
I
they
like
should be. And they should
Can I finish my
Lee, I
point?
like
Yeah,
you
but
far too much to let you be
but
that
he's
wrong.
right.
And he said that about the Democrats there.
And I
Well, you have to be accurate.
Not you.
hyperbolic.
Go ahead and please
okay.
finish because we have to.
Okay.
I was being hyperbolic. That is such a disingenuous
Like I
way.
am called to.
You were lying. Being hyperbolic, which I do all the time. A lot of people do. My image of conservatives trading in their MAGA hats for purple hair and piercings is hyperbolic. Claiming that Hillary Clinton said all conservatives should be killed instead of calling us deplorables is not hyperbolic. It's lying. It's two very different things. All right, it looks like it's about that time, so let's take a quick break. And when we come back here, more. Yeah. There it is. Let's get back into it. So, don't forget to like, follow, and share the show. Help us get out there to more people. And don't forget to check out my co-host, Allan, the American Sincerist, at FirstAllan2 on X. And, of course, Austin from the Miller Talk podcast, millertalk.substack.com. And, of course, you can follow this show at JBU_show or x.com/JBU_show. All right. I want to know, I really do. I want to know where you guys are at on this Iran thing. You can message me there on X. You can leave a comment under the show here, and I will check them after the show or read them on air if I catch it anyway. I'm stuck with, I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt until there's a reason not to. I'm willing to see where this goes. I don't see this as the same as, I see this as the same as the bombing of the nuclear facility. I don't see it as the same as every other president, including Trump's first term. He doesn't have the same people around him. I have more faith in President Trump when it comes to situations specifically like this than I have any other president. That simple. Just since we already shared one leftist blowing my mind, I figure we might as well share two. I kid you not. Here's somebody in purple hair with a nose ring about to say something logical. I believe. To be honest, I don't remember exactly what she says, so I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saved this for the show tonight.
Breaking news from
because it actually was logical.
Inside Iran, an all-girls school in Minabi, Iran was hit by Israel, killing 51 schoolgirls. Wait, was it Israel? Or... Then why is the IRGC announcing that it was an accidental error and promised serious action? Referring to missiles, by the way. Why are they posting that they're following up to see who committed this mistake? This is directly taken from the IRGC Telegram channel, by the way. Wait, there's also, in less than 100 meters from the school, there's IRGC structures, including military buildings and a clinic belong to the Guard. So the question is, why are military assets positioned next to schools? And why, hours before, there were reports of military equipment being moved into schools and hospitals? And why, on January 28th, an IRGC insider published something anonymously stating that IRGC is planting bombs in schools and hospitals, and the plan is to attack these places at the same time as America strikes? Oh, wait. This is not even the first time that the Islamic Republic is using civilians as human shields. In 2020, they called the downing of Flight PS752 a mistake. Human error was used then as an excuse when there was talks of war between Iran and America. What is journalism if everybody has already taken a side and has a devil in mind?
Great question. You know, I'm not quite sure what to make of today, after today. I've got leftists that I'm sharing that I agree with, or at least perceived leftists, to be fair. And I've got, well, the other lady did claim to be a leftist, but I've got conservatives that I absolutely, like the Hodge twins. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you so bent on this Israel thing that just fuck America, right? You're willing to throw America under the bus because you hate Israel that much? I am not in favor of doing anything on Israel's behalf, but that does not mean we can never have converging interests. Why wouldn't we get Israel to help us with bombing Iran? What's one good reason we wouldn't have them help us? They owe us at least that much. So why wouldn't we? And let's not forget that the UAE and all the other damn countries around there, Saudi Arabia, all them places. Let's not forget they helped too. Wasn't just Israel. Apparently, Senator John Thune, Mr. Dog and Pony Show, literally, that Donald Trump should withdraw and Mike Pence should be our nominee, effective immediately. Obviously, that was in 2016. But of course, I never saw this tweet. You probably didn't either. Suddenly makes a lot more sense. The story from an Iranian here, Human David Hamedi, MD, PhD. 47 years ago, I stood at the window in Tehran as a 3-year-old boy, smelling burning tires and hearing the chants that would steal my country. I didn't have words for what was happening. Today, I am watching smoke rise over the same city. But this time, the smoke is not the end of Iran. It is, God willing, the beginning of her resurrection. Several weeks ago, I wrote that in the fever of 1979 was finally breaking. I never imagined I would wake up to see that fever confronted so directly. Israel, with the clear support of the United States, has launched a preemptive strike into Tehran and against the regime's military machinery. Explosions in the capital, military targets hit. The IRGC's aura of invincibility, already cracked, is shattering in real time. I do not celebrate war, no decent person does. What I celebrate, what millions of Iranians inside the country and in the diaspora have prayed for in secret for decades, is the possibility that a regime which has no right to exist may finally be forced to go. This is the same regime that armed and cheered the October 7th massacre for no reason other than pure genocidal hatred, that murdered tens of thousands of its own sons and daughters who dared to walk peacefully in the streets, demanding the most basic freedoms, gouges out the eyes of young women for the crime of wearing makeup, hangs teenagers from cranes for posting a tweet, exports terror, poverty, and darkness to every corner it can reach, including the U.S. No nation, no people should have to live under that. Not Israelis, not Americans, not Lebanese, not Syrians, and certainly not Iranians. I am a physician who has spent his life trying to heal bodies, and a son of Iran who has spent his life mourning a stolen homeland. What we are witnessing is not aggression. It is surgery. Painful, necessary surgery to remove a tumor that has metastasized for 47 years. The tumor is the Islamic Republic that has hijacked Iran. The brave pilots and special operators of the Israeli Air Force and the men and women of the United States military now carrying out this mission, I pray for you with everything I have. In contrast to the Hodge twins tweet, rings a little different, doesn't it? That's why I'm a little pissed at so-called conservatives. May God shield you from harm. May every missile find its target and every soldier return home safely to their families who love them. You are not invaders. You are the answer to the prayers of millions who have whispered enough in the dark since 1979. You are giving our friends the chance to breathe free air again. The entire region will owe you a peace we have not known in my lifetime. To my fellow Iranians, watching from inside the country right now, heart-pounding, maybe hiding in basements or on rooftops, hold on. The end is clearer than it has ever been. The regime's fear is real. Their eyes, those same eyes that once stared down at us with an absolute power, now show something they haven't shown in decades. Panic. The math has changed. The window of 1979 is finally closing. The little 3-year-old boy I once was, and to every little boy and girl in Tehran, Ishfazan, Shiraz, and Tabriz, today who hears explosions instead of lullabies. This time the sounds are not closing of a door, they are the opening of one. The road ahead will not be easy. Transitions never are. But the direction is unmistakable. A secular, prosperous, free Iran is no longer a dream. It will and is becoming an inevitability. I have lived the stolen life so that others might not have to. Today, for the first time in 47 years, I allow myself to believe that the stealing is almost over. Thank you, Israel, and thank you, America. The Iranian people, the real Iran, will never forget. The fever is breaking, the dawn of 2026 is here, and this time, the light wins. In 2A news, Colorado HB 261144 passed the second reading in the House of Chamber today on a vote of 38 yes, 18 no, and 9 pussies excused themselves. This bill bans private firearm manufacturing using 3D printers and CNC machines and criminalizes the possession, by the way, something that has been legal since 1776. criminalizes the possession and distribution of the digital files and instructions, something that is blatantly against the First and Second Amendment. It creates a new crime category in Colorado law with stiff penalties. Maybe it's just me, but I don't really give a shit what the law is. I'm really sick of any law that criminalizes American citizens more. And I kind of think that until there isn't a single person illegal in America, illegally in America, maybe we shouldn't put any more laws on citizens. Maybe we have enough. But that's just me. The bill will have one final vote in the House chamber on third reading next week before it moves to the Senate chamber, where a public hearing will be held before making its way to the full Senate vote. Track all 2026 Colorado gun bans at rallyforourrights.com. Posted by @rallyrights. Yeah, don't just track it. If you live in Colorado, if you are a Coloridian, show up. Call your representatives. All of them. And by the way, that goes for all Americans. I did this the other day. I'm going to do it again right now. Thankfully, I should still have it here, so I don't have to do it again. Here is how you can contact the Supreme Court. Tell them that the Second Amendment, as with all constitutional amendments, are non-negotiable, and that shall not be infringed means the government does not have a right to decide. The people do. While you're at it, here's their mailing address and telephone number, by the way. Supreme Court. Remember, this goes back to the case we read the other day, 2 days ago now, and I can't remember it offhand, but it was a horrid decision by the Supreme Court that said that suppressors, being non-integral firearm accessories, were not covered by the Second Amendment. This was a decision by one of the most conservative appeals courts in the nation. Suppressors were not covered by the Second Amendment. If that decision is allowed to stand, it means that any firearm accessory can be banned at will because it's not constitutionally protected. It cannot stand. So, as I just put up, email the court, let them know how you feel, and call your representatives and leave a message and let them know how you feel. Don't be mean. Don't be rude. Don't yell and scream. Just be clear. The American people are paying attention, and we will not have our rights trampled anymore. Period. And maybe, just maybe, you could mention what I just did, which is maybe they shouldn't bother writing a new law against the American people so long as there is a single illegal still in the country. Because when you put it like that, a little frustrating. Check out this footage. There was one Iranian missile in the return barrage this morning that it was hit, but it still ended up doing damage. to a U.S. structure. Nobody was killed, as far as I know. I have not seen any updates that said that there was. But this video shows the speed at which these things come in, and it also shows that our Patriot and THAAD systems need some very quick updates. So that's a Patriot or a THAAD missile. There's another one. And there should be one more that comes in. One of these two hits it, the incoming missile, which is right there. It's the little dot coming closer. It knocks it off course, but it doesn't stop it. So there you can see it started throwing sparks. That's because it was hit, but it wasn't stopped. And now a third one launches to try and stop it. Unfortunately, too late, and misses. Now watch this. Whew. That's a Marine right there. You can tell by the retarded laugh. Sorry, Tim. Just watch how fast that comes in again. Oh, hang on. I'll fast forward, don't worry. What the hell is going on here? Alright, watch how fast this comes in. Something else, huh? Alright, what else we got today? Oh yeah, here. Just, to remind people of the caliber of people you're angry that we're attacking. Death to America. They can't even get a lid. Fucking idiots. Look at them. They can't wait.
متشکرم. آقای گورکن مراقب باشید مجلس آتش نزنه. متشکرم. بفرمایید.
If Europe and important countries like Russia and China fill this international vacuum, perhaps there will be a way to continue this path on the nuclear deal. Otherwise, Iran will bring President Trump to his senses with its nuclear actions. They have to know that under such circumstances, Iran will have no commitment to stay in its previous position on the nuclear issue. Such a shame, right? Such a shame. And what happened? Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Okay. This story, back to the Second Amendment here for a minute. I honestly could not believe this story was real. I had to look it up. And matter of fact, I'm going to look it back up again because I don't remember which state it is. Let's see. Illinois. That's right. Illinois. The great socialist state of Illinois. Man allegedly possessing ammo without a FOID card. Firearms owner information. Prompted SWAT to respond. And a shelter-in-place order in Lake in the Hills, which is apparently a neighborhood. I'm going to read that again. Man possessing ammo without a FOID card prompted SWAT to respond and issue a shelter-in-place order. First of all, these cops should feel like absolute fucking cucks. Really? You responded with SWAT? Because of... Let me get the details real fast here. 25 cartridges of pistol ammunition and 13 cartridges of rifle ammunition. Fuck's sakes. How do you take yourself seriously as a cop? And see, we have this duality on this show. And it seems like every day I have to do this. Where I have to defend law enforcement from idiots criticizing them when they do their jobs correctly. And then at the same time, I have to criticize law enforcement for doing stupid shit like this against the only people that defend you. Why? This comes from Lake and McHenry County Scanner. And I did look it up. It is legit. The SWAT response and shelter-in-place order in Lake in the Hills Thursday morning was due to a search warrant on a 20-year-old man allegedly possessing 38 rounds of rifle and pistol ammunition without a FOID card. Joel Fernandez was arrested without incident, at his residence in the 1400 block of Clayton Marsh Drive in Lake in the Hills, and charged with 4 counts of possessing ammunition without a valid FOID card, a Class A misdemeanor. At around 9:50 a.m. Thursday, the Lake in the Hills Police Department, assisted by the Carpentersville Police Department and the McHenry County Sheriff's multi-jurisdictional SWAT pussies. That wasn't a joke. I just meant it. If you're responding to a man owning ammunition without an unconstitutional FOID card, I don't give a shit what the law of the state is. What'd you swear an oath to? Executed a search warrant at Fernandez's residence. The search warrant was part of a joint investigation, the Lake in the Hills Police Department said in a news release. They even brought out the MRAP for this. You know, because he might throw the ammunition at them. No statement that they found a firearm with it. So, there's that. A criminal complaint filed in McHenry County Circuit Court alleges that Fernandez knowingly possessed without a valid FOID card, 20 cartridges of 45 Auto, Cellular, and Bellet branded Full Metal Jacket, and 13 cartridges of 223 Remington branded Steel Core FMJ. 1 cartridge of 9mm Blazer Brass branded FMJ, and 1 cartridge of 9mm Remington Peters branded FMJ. 1 cartridge of 9mm Spear branded Jacketed Hollow Point, and 2 cartridges of 9mm Sig Sauer branded Jacketed Hollow Point. This means that Fernandez was allegedly possessing 25 cartridges of pistol and 13 cartridges of rifle ammunition, totaling 38. It is less than would fit into this magazine if it were real. This is an airsoft version. But if it were real, that is less ammunition than would fit in one magazine. But I digress. It really doesn't matter how much it is. It's ammunition. Legal. In fact, until very recently, you didn't even have to be 18 to buy it. Nor should you have to be. The fuck are you going to do with ammunition without a gun? Regardless, the Second Amendment is pretty clear. Fernandez was transported to the McHenry County Jail and is scheduled to appear in court on March 5th. He does not have any prior criminal cases against him in McHenry County, so he's not a criminal either. He just had some ammunition without a FOID card. The SWAT operation prompted police to issue nixle and social media alerts advising residents to shelter in place, but it did not specify an exact radius of the order. The department asked people to avoid the block encompassing Washington Street, Lincoln Street, McKinley Street, and Clayton Marsh. Why? In case these fucking rounds were nuclear? The department later issued an update nixle alert around 10:40 a.m., saying the shelter in place had been canceled. The order was in effect for less than an hour. That actually would be an hour and 10 minutes, you fucking idiot. According to the police department. I genuinely cannot believe this. The alert said police activity in the area of Clayton Marsh and Washington Drive, which did not intersect, had safely concluded. Officials added that there was no longer a threat to public safety. There was never a threat. The man wasn't a criminal, according to you. Nor did he have a gun, according to you. And he legally possessed ammunition. What he didn't have was an unconstitutional form of registration to own such ammunition. Also known as a FUD card. FOID card. Sorry. Don't worry, though. McHenry police had their crack squad on it. A nearby preschool was reportedly on lockdown. But other schools in Lake Hills area were not reported to be locked down. A spokesperson for District 47 told Lake and McHenry County Scanner that Indian Prairie Elementary School, which is approximately half a mile to the west of the search warrant, did not receive guidance from the police department prompting a lockdown. A spokesperson for Community Unit School District 300 said no schools in the district went on lockdown Thursday morning. Well, good. Why not? he was apparently so dangerous with this ammunition that we needed SWAT. Sounds to me like schools should have been locked down. Sounds to me like the authorities weren't doing their job. I genuinely, as somebody that lives in a Democrat state who has had many rights taken away in the last several years, I still can't wrap my head around this. I also just noticed that right here is like, on the camera, it looks funny. Looks like I have a big tumor. I don't, I swear. Anyway. I don't know what to believe about that. My head hurts. Speaking of my head hurting, let's get into some more, or another rather, conservative with no principles whatsoever.
As long as they
ignore the idiot talking on the video, just listen to what the governor says.
there's been in America, there's been governors like the governor of Oklahoma talking about how America can get free or cheap labor. Watch this.
What would happen in Oklahoma if everybody here without legal status who is working a job disappeared tomorrow? What would happen?
I mean, it'd be devastating. I mean, I went down, I was in a very rural community, Trump voters, and I asked them these questions.
This is how you know a politician is telling a bullshit story. Listen to how he words this. I went down to this very rural area, all Trump supporters.
I said, what are you guys thinking about this immigration issue? Said, Governor, Trump won. He won on the issue of border security. We absolutely need to vet people coming into our country. We absolutely need to get criminals out. But they also whispered to me and they said, I run a construction company. I own a company that does this. I'm a farmer, and I have some illegals that work for me, and they're like family. They've been here for 15 years. They go to church with us. Their kids go to school. They're great people. They're trying to get workforce permits, and we can't figure it out. And that's why they're saying, Governor, you need as the governor to be able to issue these workforce permits so we can so they can pay taxes, they can be here legally, and they can work. I'm not saying give them a citizenship, but let's figure this out because it would devastate the different industries across the country. And you can talk to the Wisconsin dairy.
I thought they only did jobs Americans don't want to do. What industries are going to be devastated besides picking fruit, apparently? We always hear this. We always hear, oh, they're just doing jobs Americans don't want to do. They're not driving down your wages. But then we hear that every industry would be devastated. Well, last I checked, Americans work in every industry in America. And of course, we all know they don't only do jobs Americans don't want to do. They do jobs that we all do. And even if they were doing only jobs Americans didn't want to do, what would happen if we didn't allow them here to do those jobs under the table for low wages? The people doing those jobs, or the people that had those jobs to be done, would necessarily have to pay a higher wage to attract Americans. So is that not driving down wages? Sure seems like it. Also seems pretty racist, and as this man's going to point out, kind of like slave labor. Yes, it is.
Farmers or the Vermont dairy farmers or the fisheries in Louisiana. We all need labor at some level, and workforce is very important for states and for our economy, and we need to figure this out.
Now, the
best way to do that is kick the people off welfare that don't need it, get the illegals out of the country, and get people back to work. And this gentleman is right. It sure sounds like the same excuse used at the end of slavery, because it is. What he's wrong about is that he picked one Republican governor dumb enough to say it, but makes no mention of the fact of every Democrat that has said exactly the same thing. This governor's full of shit. So is every other governor and every other politician that says something similar. We didn't say get some out. We said get all out. Coming here illegally is a crime. It does make you a criminal. I don't care how long you've been here. Do I feel for you if you've been here for a long time and you were fooled by Democrats by thinking you'd be safe? Yes, I do. I understand. I won't say I understand. I can fathom how incredibly difficult it would be to have to either be split up from your family and leave them here or move them to Mexico or wherever. What do you expect us to do? You willfully defied our laws in hopes that somebody would just grant you amnesty for willfully defying them. That didn't happen. What do you expect us to do? And if you are a Republican voter or a conservative and you fall for idiots like Stitt here, what's his name? Kevin Stitt? Oh God, in Oklahoma too. Austin, what the fuck is wrong with you? Then just, I don't know, quit voting, I guess. I don't even know what to say at this point. Like, if you fall for these idiots, then I guess you get what you deserve, which is their leadership. Speaking of idiots, let's watch one of my favorites. Because this is a perfect example of how a little bit of knowledge becomes a very deadly thing online.
You know how I always say they put the truth right in plain sight? Well, I decided to test it out. And if they're telling us the truth in plain sight, I figured I'd test it out against smart water.
This is his fancy water testing device, supposedly. And if you already know what this is, just hang on, we'll get there.
Seems like it's a safe bet to say it might be a little smarter to choose the smart over the death. Next, I decided to test the water from Fiji and the French Alps. Do you know what Evian spells backwards? It's naive for those of you that are a little slow. Mountain water, Fiji versus Evian.
You know what Fiji spells backwards? IGIF. Big peanut butter at it again. Now wait, that Fiji looks pretty gross too.
Boy, those French Alps sure are tainted. And just to point out, yellow is an indicator of fluoride, and that
no, it's not.
Is all sorts of metals. Lastly, I decided to test the water I drink most, distilled versus the other water I drink most, from the Epic water filter that I drink mostly. Good old distilled.
He just said he drank distilled mostly.
And Epic water filters, which is what I normally drink out of. It's supposed to get all the F out. We'll see how it does. Wish me luck.
Did you notice, real quick, what these looked like in the beginning and what they look like now?
I'm not gonna lie here, I'm extremely disappointed. I literally just been putting Florida tap water in here, thinking that this company was legit. What a joke. Distilled for the win, people. 100%. Crystal clear. None of the others have been. I would say smart water is probably your second best choice. Or get yourself a reverse osmosis water filter. To think, this has been my go-to for a year. Can't trust the companies, especially when they sell this on Amazon. You know what, though, if you want one of these, I did get it on Amazon. I don't support them. But when you can use them to fight them, and this does nothing. This is almost as bad as just straight up tap water. What a joke. Look at this. What an absolute joke. I tested the Florida tap water, and it literally wasn't that bad. So this piece of crap water filter is literally making Florida tap water worse. How is that even possible? I just got a brand new filter. This is what I give my dogs on a daily basis. I feel terrible. Now, besides for drinking out of plastic, there's only one way to go.
But not because
if you don't want any of this or the yellow stuff. But of course, all this for entertainment purposes, people. They would never just tell us the truth right in plain sight, and they would never advertise falsely. No, never. The powers that be would never advertise falsely. Entertainment only. Oh, and if there's a brand you want me to test out, put it in the comments. Good luck.
It's hard to fathom the level of stupidity that it takes, which makes me believe that probably just a grifter, except all the people in the comments that are like, oh my God. And the person who posted it at Blumentuck, Blue MONTAUK, who said, this is why I only just drink, this is why I only drink distilled tap water. Okay. If you go check out this post, you'll see I'm all through the comments because I absolutely lost my mind at this. I know, not very professional of me, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't. Here is a picture of the device he was supposedly using. Water quality tester electrolyzer, water quality tester electrolysis, iron bars, TDS tester electrolyzer, quick water quality testing, ideal water test meter for all kinds of water. $8.99. Okay? And you can see here that they show the difference in the tests. Running water, pure water. Materials, iron, metal, copper, zinc. But what I want to see is what the words say there on the label, which is on this one right here, I think. No, where did I see that? Apparently the washing machine is quite off balance today. I'm just going to pull it up on my phone real fast because it's going to be faster than trying to do it there. Water tester electrolyzer, is that what it said? Water quality tester electrolyzer. Ouch. That sounded like it hurt, it's because it did. Okay, so what it says in the tiny print, there you can see, no, you can't see, but whatever. I am looking at the same thing. If you don't believe me, then I guess, whatever. Okay, yellow is dissolved oxygen, trace elements, various organic minerals. Green, arsenic, chloroform, tetrachloromethane, copper oxide. Blue, bacteria, viruses, organophosphorus, fertilizers, detergents, pesticides, and aluminum sulfate. Red, monovalent mercury, trivalent mercury. White, lead, zinc, calcium, magnesium, asbestos. Oh, sorry, asbestos mercury. I don't even know what that is. Black, heavy metals, zinc, lead, mercury, copper, chromium, magnesium, cadmium. Okay, just off the bat, that list in and of its own, absolute bullshit. I'll explain in a minute. According to this product that I'm looking at, which could be different than the one he's using, but One of these is an aluminum bar. One is an iron bar. It does not specify which one's cathode and which one's anode, though. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. Okay, hang tight here. I'm looking at one other one because that is not the same. The one that I read was exactly what he said, where it said yellow was fluorine or fluoride, which, if you're unaware, is basically the same thing. Yeah, okay, so this one on the unit, it says, first place 2 sets of electrodes in each of the 2 water containers, then connect it to power supply and switch it on for 30 to 60 seconds. Colors shown in the electrolyzed water indicate different impurities. Yellow, acids, fluoride, and other organic material. Green, arsenic, arsenic mercury, mercury, lead, copper, sodium. Blue, bacteria, viruses, carcinogens, chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and other. Red, iron and rust, bacterial. White, lead, zinc, mercury, inorganic. Black dirt is heavy metal. Okay, so as you can see, the apparatus itself doesn't even align with the chart. This, that one I just read literally has the same chart that I just read before that on the other one. There's lots of these online. They all look identical. Second, all this is a simple electrolysis device. Electrolysis is one of the most, basic chemical reactions known since the 1800s. Sorry. Eating on camera again. Candies are just so damn good. What's actually happening here is you're taking good water, which, by the way, first let's discuss what drinking water is. Drinking water is H2O, water, with minerals in it. What minerals? Things like sodium chloride, table salt, potassium chloride, very similar to table salt, still has that salty taste, although a little less, but a necessary form of potassium for your body. Magnesium chloride, which is another mineral that helps you get magnesium. All necessary and important in small levels. Those are all 3 of those are, what are they called? Electrolytes. I believe. Magnesium might not be, but I know sodium chloride and potassium chloride are electrolytes. As well as various other things, depending on where the water comes from. Water from the ground, from springs and wells, is generally going to have a little bit more minerals in it. That's why the TDS meters that people always used are bullshit tests too. TDS stands for total dissolved solids. That could be table salt. If you put enough table salt in water, the TDS will be off the chart. It doesn't make the water bad for you. Now, what does the electrolysis do on top of that? Oh, well, before we get to that, plain distilled water is just H2O without all those other dissolved solids. Sometimes trace amounts, but very, very near zero. As near zero as it literally gets. What the average person would call zero. Anyway, distilled water is dangerous, and we'll get to that in a second. The electrolysis takes perfectly safe, stable compounds, like salt, and turns them into toxic ones. It can separate the sodium ions from the chlorine ions. So what is salt again? Sodium chloride. Sodium is a metal, an extremely reactive and dangerous metal. Chloride is chlorine. It becomes chloride when it's attached to the sodium molecule, but it's chlorine when it's by itself. Chlorine gas is mustard gas. It is a toxic gas that will kill you. It's also where that chlorine smell comes from when you walk into like an indoor pool. It's a very minute traces of chlorine gas in the air from the chlorine in the pool. When you electrolyze sodium chloride, it releases those chlorine molecules. You can actually smell it. And converts the sodium molecules. It doesn't convert it into sodium metal. It converts it into other salts, some of which are poisonous. So he's literally making poison or making poisonous water out of regular healthy water that has normal minerals in it. The same is true for the magnesium chloride, the potassium chloride, all those things, right? Electrolysis does different things. On top of that, as you saw, some of those turn like black and red. That's literally the iron from the iron rods on the electrolysis machine being given off. Because in electrolysis, what happens is you have an anode and a cathode, your plus and your minus from the battery, right? You put those in the water, and ions naturally go from anode to cathode, or cathode to, I always get them backwards, but whichever is which. Either way, they go from one to the other. Depending on how the reaction is set up, meaning depending on what solids are in the water, what perfectly safe solids usually are in the water, and what anode and cathode you're using. Like I said, that one said aluminum, iron, some of them, it could be iron, it could be lead, iron, or lead, it could be any number of things. But in this case, it's iron aluminum. That iron will literally come off as iron oxide and travel towards the aluminum. Or vice versa if you did it backwards, as aluminum oxide. It's a bullshit test, is simply put. Aside from all those colors being absolute nonsense, this test would not do anything to tell you about pesticides, about organic material, about viruses or bacteria. It literally could not determine any of that, nor could a TDS test for that matter. TDS test is equally useless. And you might say, but why the distilled water? If the contaminants are at least in part coming from the rods, then why did the distilled water not show anything? Well, because water itself is not really conductive. I know we think of it as extremely conductive, but it's actually the dissolved solids in water that make it conductive, namely salt. Without any dissolved solids in the water, water is a very poor conductor. And so those posts, if they were closer together, you might still get it, or over a longer period of time, it might still turn yellow or orange from the iron oxide. But because it's such a poor conductor, that's why it's not getting as much iron coming off of it. But it's still probably getting some. Now, if all this means that you end up drinking distilled water because you're an idiot and don't understand how electrolysis works, and you're not an idiot for not understanding how electrolysis works, to be clear. You're just an idiot for believing a video from some guy online that has no idea what he's talking about. And some Chinese device that says that it'll tell you heavy metal presence and bacteria, viruses, organophosphates, fertilizers, detergents, pesticides, and aluminum sulfate. And also where it said, if it was black, that means heavy metals like zinc, lead, mercury, copper, chromium, magnesium, cadmium. None of those would turn out black. Copper, for example, would be green. Green or blue, depending on the situation. Zinc could be white, but it would show up as white. Salts, probably. Same with magnesium or aluminum. It doesn't matter. The point is, none of that's accurate. And the problem with distilled water is your body needs those dissolved solids. Your body needs those minerals, those electrolytes. It has to have them. If you just drink pure distilled water, you will eventually deplete your body of those electrolytes. You'll probably be fine on salt because we get salt from most other things, but we don't get a lot of the other electrolytes from anything else unless you are specifically supplementing it, which you could do. You could get distilled water and supplement it. Some people use, I think it's called Celtic salt, which is basically the electrolytes themselves. You just add a little bit to the distilled water, and now it has, guess what? Total dissolved solids in it, i.e. salts. But just drinking distilled water will eventually make you very, very sick, because once you are depleted of essential minerals, all kinds of crazy things can start happening to your body. The good news is modern medicine's pretty good at catching these things, so when you do get very sick, you go to a hospital and they'll probably be able to figure it out. But this is a perfect example of why these demonstrations that look very convincing when you're watching a YouTube video are not something you should listen to or just accept wholly at the very least. Same thing with the zero water showing the TDS test. Zero water coming out with zero total dissolved solids is essentially the same as distilled. It's not quite the same because it's not actually zero dissolved solids, but it's pretty close. You might say, well, I drank plenty of that, never got sick. I've drank plenty of distilled water, never got sick. That means you're supplementing the minerals somewhere else, and that's fine. Not everybody does that, though. And the thing is, the idea that the distilled water on the shelf is not poison, but they're actively poisoning smart water, for example. Come on. All of these different brands are working in concert. And I get it, a lot of the brands are owned by Coke or something like that. But you guys are taking the conspiracy thing far too far. Yes, there are companies that are willing to use chemicals that are unproven. And some of those chemicals later turn out to be dangerous. There is almost no case of a company using a chemical that is known to be exceedingly dangerous and just choosing to use it anyway. Even when it comes to the cigarette companies, most of what we were told was wildly exaggerated. I'm not saying that they're great companies, but most of what we were told was pretty exaggerated. Also, a little further research, and hang on, I gotta find it before I make this claim here. Shoot, I went off of it. A little further research found out that that guy believes some, like, wildly stupid shit. Like, wild conspiracy theory things. So, if you are feeling convinced by one of these demonstrations of something that seems very genuine and straightforward, do some follow-up research on it. Don't just accept it wholesale, and certainly don't make any personal life changes until you talk to a doctor, talk to a friend, do some more research online, ask Grok, something. Because that guy isn't going to pay your hospital bills if you get sick listening to him. Although, to be fair, I didn't ask. You could try to ask, I guess. Let's see. Dumb liberal takes. Or, hold on. Let me see if this is what I think it is. Yeah, let's watch this one about women.
Please make it make sense. Why do guys that I'm interested in end up not wanting to pursue me?
Because they are the same guys that everyone is interested in.
And then guys that I'm not interested in pursue me and pursue me hard and do not give up?
Because those are the guys that nobody is interested in.
Please make it make sense.
Okay. Human beings are born with a sense of fairness. We like to think that the universe is fair and everything evens out, but it's not and it doesn't. We think that things work a certain way, but it's actually just a feeling that we need to have. Otherwise, life would be a nightmare. We like to believe that there is someone out there for everyone, but in reality, it's only a few guys that are attractive to all the girls. The rest of these guys are practically invisible until they do something extra and then you notice them. In other words, they have to make up for their lack of attractiveness by being extra nice. That means that all women dream of being with just a few exciting men, so there's not enough to go around. So if we match 1-to-1, that means that most women will never get what they're looking for. This used to work better because women kind of had to get married when they had less power, so most people would match 1-to-1. But now that you have your own money, we don't match 1-to-1 anymore. We threw all those rules out the window, and now everything is a mess. Because women are no longer marrying who they must, and instead, they are pursuing who they want, and it's all the same few guys. Let's say this is you. This is the guy that you're looking for, and he isn't interested in committing because he's got all the attention he can handle, and so does he. And here is the guy who's looking for you, and you're not interested in him, and neither is anyone else. Except maybe her, but then he doesn't want to commit to her either. To make matters worse, dating apps give people the illusion of more options than they really have. So when you say,
please make it make sense,
that is your brain trying to believe that people naturally pair off with someone at their own level. But that's not how nature works. Nature makes all the women want these few men, and then these men want these women who are not interested because they want Prince Charming, although Prince Charming is busy. And then these girls way down here are pursuing these guys who don't want to be seen with them. People love to forget that we are nature, we are animals, and we have a lower biological nature. And nature doesn't say, I should pick someone appropriate for me. Nature says I should get the best I possibly can, which creates a market. This website on walrus reproduction says that one male is shared by 23 females. At certain points in our history, 17 women reproduced for every one man, and throughout all of history, only 40% of men reproduce compared to almost 90% of women. So this is not new. It's just what male mammals do when nothing stops them. And if you want to go back to everyone matching one by one, then you have to go back to the rules that made it happen. But you said you didn't like those. So the reason that people no longer pair up one by one is that sexual freedom makes society collapse. This guy wrote a book about it, and just look at him. He tried to warn you. Here, I know none of you are going to read this. The whole of human history does not contain a single instance of a group becoming civilized unless it has been absolutely monogamous, nor is there any example of a group retaining its culture after it has adopted less rigorous customs. So the reason the guys you like don't like you, and the other way around, is because that's what people do.
What do you think? You think that's a plausible take, or do you think that that is just heavy copium, I guess? I don't know that I would call that 100% accurate, but I do think that that is a reasonable general explanation to the question that was asked, at least. We all know. We all know. We can all see it. Men, women alike, young and old, can see what 50 years of feminism has done to dating and to relationships in general, and that it has not been good, even if some good aspects came of it. I'm looking into this currently. I heard it claimed on another show today. You might have too. And I'm going to report on it here hopefully tomorrow, but I wanted to get the facts myself, of course. But a recent guest on Joe Rogan's show said that Susan B. Anthony, and I forget the name of the other lady, two of the main proponents for women's suffrage, wanted to prevent women from being able to vote for women's suffrage because women would overwhelmingly choose to vote against it and overwhelmingly choose to be homemakers. They said that giving them the option, women would overwhelmingly choose to be homemakers, and that's not a good thing. So we need to take that option away, essentially. Again, I didn't have a chance to verify that, so we'll talk about it more in a couple days here. But it lines up with a lot of other facts I do know about other things, particularly progressives in the early 20th century. And I do know that a lot of what we were taught about 20th century history was all bullshit. Like Rosa Parks. That was a staged photo. It wasn't a random event. They literally got on multiple buses that day and had no interactions. And it wasn't until they finally did that the cameraman following her around snapped the famous photo. It was a setup. And maybe, in that case, a setup for a good cause. But it does change the history, doesn't it? It's also a lie that women were never allowed to vote, period. They were always allowed to vote. They gave up that right by not owning property. Nothing stopped a woman from being single or from being the head of the household, except for choice. And you could say societal pressure, sure. But no laws. The idea that laws ever prevented those things from happening are a lie. I don't know, man. All I know is 50, 60, 70 years later, a lot of the changes we made in the 20th century have not been good. Notice I said 20th century. I'm not saying freeing slaves was bad, all right? And I'm not saying that everything that happened in the 20th century was bad either. Things like feminism, pretty overwhelmingly bad for men and women. Women are less happy today than at any point in U.S. history, as are men. That's not an accident. And it might have even been the point. But whether it's the point or not, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if we thought this would actually do good. It didn't. Seems like a good reason to maybe start going backwards a little bit. And that doesn't mean backwards on everything. It means backwards on the things that aren't working. Whatever, man. That's just my opinion. Also, since I gave it to conservatives a lot at the beginning of the show, I will point out the latest and greatest hypocrisy from the left this week, which is that they're now cheering on billionaires again. More than 100 companies filed new lawsuits since the U.S. Supreme Court declared most of President Donald Trump's global tariffs illegal. Well, unconstitutional, but sure. With companies like FedEx Corp and Dyson Inc. joining the lawsuits to recoup what they've paid on imports. The justices were silent on the refund question, leaving questions of payback to the U.S. Court of International Trade. and the Justice Department is due to weigh in on immediate next steps in the original legislation. The latest cases have pushed the total number of tariff lawsuits above 2,000, according to Bloomberg News analysis, and represents only a small fraction of the hundreds of thousands of importers that paid the tariffs that the justices struck down. Now, putting aside how you feel about tariffs one way or another, those tariffs were paid by you, the consumer. Businesses don't pay anything. That's not how it works. A tariff increases the cost of a good. They then sell that good based on what it costs, meaning the cost went to you, meaning the tariff went to you. Now, I know some people did try to deny it. I've never denied this the whole time. I acknowledge that tariffs would raise the cost of goods to some degree. I also think it was worth it and a good goal, and, as Trump said, would lead us closer to eliminating the freaking income tax. But putting that aside, those companies are now trying to sue the government for money you paid for a windfall from the taxpayers for them. Meaning, you will pay those tariffs twice because of the way the leftist courts have decided to work this out. And I'm not calling the Supreme Court leftist, although this was a terrible decision in my opinion. But the overwhelming majority of the lower courts are. And they will now be setting the rules on whether or not this gets paid back. It can't. But here's the thing. Because leftists are so anti-Trump, they're celebrating this. My bad. They're celebrating this. So they're now celebrating billionaires, literally ripping off taxpayers because they hate Trump. You can't make up the stupidity. You just can't. Also, for those of you that hate Trump so much you want to flee the country, I share with you one woman's experience living in Paris. This is how she gets into her apartment every single day.
All right, since everybody was just so utterly gobsmacked by the tour of me leaving my apartment, I thought naturally I would do the scarier view, which is me going up the stairs into my apartment.
I'll also point out, notice how many locks there are and how many locked doors. Kind of suggested maybe Paris is a dangerous neighborhood.
So here we go.
And I doubt it's Parisians.
Say a prayer.
There's one locked door.
So naturally, as we walk in through the front door, we are met by stairs which lead to another door, which is met by a pathway with no stairs that leads to another door that is met by a courtyard to lead us to another door. And while we're here, I'll address the first question that many people had is how the hell do I carry my groceries? And that is by hand. I am a woman of integrity, so I will carry the groceries for myself. However, the load is limited to 2 leeks and 1 can of Coke. So then we open the next door to get us to the security entrance to the next door. Here we go. And once we're in this door, then we meet our fateful demise, the steps. I take a moment of prayer to reflect on what's about to happen. And then without further ado, I go. Okay, a moment to pause and catch my breath. Give myself some grace before tackling the rest.
For those counting, she's coming up on
And
7.
the Louvre could really learn a lesson here because now we're at another door with 2 locks just to get
And you
into
think, oh, she's
another
at her
hallway.
apartment. No.
And safety first,
Just
of
more
course,
locks.
so have to then lock both of the locks that I just unlocked. Okay, 2 more hours and I should be at my apartment.
Oh. 8 floors. Who the hell designed this building?
And there she is. Now I won't be leaving for 5 to 7 business days.
Yeah, no kidding. I would have liked to see, I bet you it's a closet too. Don't worry guys, the grass is greener. But the beautiful architecture. I first of all, I don't understand why anyone would ever want to live in a high rise. I mean, I get, like, if you're rich enough that you can pay everyone else to just move your furniture every time you want to move around, great. If I had billions of dollars and could afford a high-rise apartment and a place in the woods, and I could take my helicopter to the high-rise apartment, great. I'm all in. Short of that, though. The hell? Would anyone want to do that? Let alone a 7-floor walk-up. All right. We're over 3 hours, so we're going to get out of here for today, but we'll finish off with this video right here. You're welcome. This is a First Amendment auditor, and let's see what your guys' take is on who's in the right and who's in the wrong here.
Do whatever you're doing, just don't block the doorway.
Okay, so he asked him, you're welcome to do what you're doing, but please don't block the doorway. And I will admit, if you can't tell whose side I'm on, he walks up to him, a little close, and puts his hand on his camera, which he probably shouldn't do. But I get it, and you'll see why.
Don't block my doorway.
Don't touch my shit, man. Don't touch my shit, bro. You don't want to touch my shit.
You don't want to step in front of my
Don't touch
doorway.
my shit.
You're in my house. Like, this is my house, dude.
I don't care if I'm... You're touching... What the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
He's blocking my doorway.
Notice his camera's fine at the moment.
You just
Now watch
assaulted
this.
me. Look what you just did to my camera. Get this on film. Am I serious? What the hell's wrong with you, bro? You just broke my camera for no reason. I'm out here selling you stupid
camera's not
songs, and that's what you did?
He turned the gimbal.
Just got maced by this guy.
That's right.
Just got maced by this guy. I didn't break your camera. I moved it out of the way.
No, you just broke my
I
camera.
told you to not stand in front of my doorway because you're blocking my customers from being in my store, and you just maced me.
That's right. You just assaulted me.
You assaulted me.
Okay, yeah, tell yourself another story. You're on 2 cameras, bro. Unbelievable. What was the point of what you just did?
Are you serious?
Am I serious? Oh, yeah, is that what happened? It's a good thing it's all on video.
Sorry, guys.
I can't even get my...
I happen not to be able to buy new socks because...
You can thank this guy for that.
What's going on?
Yeah, you can thank me.
Sorry, guys.
Why would you come out and put your hands on somebody? You think that was a good idea?
All right, store's closed. Thanks, guys.
Do you really think that was a good idea, bro?
Sorry about that. I'll see you around.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Incredible.
So is there something controversial here that you know about?
No, not at all.
Probably. What are you guys filming here for? Why are you guys filming?
We're making a travel video about Trump. And the guy that owns the sock store just came out and grabbed my camera and twisted my whole gimbal.
So you based all the customers? He asked you to leave. Yeah.
Based all the customers? Interesting. Interesting perception. If I walk up and grab your phone, what are you going to do about it?
Not kick you in the fucking small dick.
Exactly. There you go.
And
Very
not
good.
record anymore.
Have a good day. Let's see how it goes, guys. Stay tuned. How we doing, sir?
Can you go over there and I'll talk to these guys and I'll go talk to you?
How you doing?
Good.
Officer O'Brien?
Yeah, time the temperature check first, please.
Yeah, right. How are you?
So what's happening?
Well, you can see I'm holding this like this. We started down at the end of the road there. We're doing a travel video.
Yeah, I've seen your videos.
Okay, very good.
And your son's.
Very cool. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
hope you subscribe.
I enjoy it.
Very cool.
I am.
Awesome.
Anyway,
so we're walking,
I imagine what happened. So.
10 minutes in front of each business, walking down, not bothering anybody. So we get in front of the sock parlor.
Not bothering anybody.
And a woman and her family walked up and said to me, "What are you guys filming?" So I said, "Oh, we're doing sock checks. You want to show us your checks? Maybe we can get your socks. Maybe we can get you to go in and buy some new socks." So she shows me that she has no socks.
Oh,
on.
he's just there promoting the video.
She says,
the
"Oh,
business
I'll go in
for
there." So she goes in there and buys
That's
two
all
pairs
he's
of socks.
doing.
So she came out. She said, "Oh, I got 2 pairs." So we're having fun, just enjoying the day, having fun with people. The guy with the cap on there, with the red thing on the front of his cap, comes out, walks in front of my camera, sticks his head on the back of the back of his head on my lens. So I walked around him and said, "Why would you do that? We're just out here making a travel video for YouTube. That's all we're doing." And he went back in the store. I kept filming, and about 30 seconds to a minute later, he came back out and just grabbed my camera. But this is, you see how this is bent? This whole thing's bent. This I can't even let go of. That's what happens to it. The whole thing is not working. So
I didn't realize they cut it there, or we didn't have to watch that last bit. What do you think about that? You think that's good First Amendment auditing? Okay, first of all, First Amendment audits are for people who can take away, who have the authority to take away your First Amendment rights, particularly government employees. You have no First Amendment rights in a private business, which of course is why he was standing outside the private business, directly in the doorway. I don't have any problem with the store owner being pissed off about some guy standing outside his doorway harassing his customers. Should he have put his hand on the camera? No. Did he break it? No. Quit bullshitting, guy. Your camera's fine. You turn the gimbal off. There was nothing broken. Aside from that, macing him for touching the camera. Look, might it be justified under the law? Like, would you actually be charged for it? Maybe. Or maybe not. Maybe it would be justified. Because he did touch the camera first. Are you an asshole for doing it, though? Yes. First of all, you have no business filming in front of people's businesses like that. And just being there to stir shit up for your YouTube channel. Yes, you have every right to film from the sidewalk. But you could see he was literally standing as close to the store's physical property as possible. In between the doorway and where people were coming and going. And again, private businesses are private businesses. What is there to harass? Why are you harassing them? What are you testing? Nothing. You're just trying to get a reaction out of people. Fuck off with this kind of shit. Really. You're not doing anybody any favors. You're certainly not doing the First Amendment any favors. I don't know, man. x.com/JBU_show. Anchor.fm/JBU. We'll be back on tomorrow, hopefully earlier in the day, and probably 5 p.m. West Coast time, Pacific Standard Time. They'll make your available adjustments there. And then we'll be back with you on Wednesday, 8 o'clock, PST. Trying to think if there's anything else to wrap up. We'll also keep a close eye on this Iran thing. If anything ends up breaking Monday or Tuesday, usually if there's breaking news, we'll come on and talk about it. But other than that, we'll be back with you Wednesday. But again, who else is willing to hang out with you on the weekend? Come on now. All right, guys. Please like, follow, share, all that good stuff. And with that, my name is Chris, and this has been Jason's Big Umbrella Show.